So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to create a parametric model, and we're going to go through how we decide which dimensions should be parametric, which ones are going to be calculated, and how we go about doing that, where we come up with the idea that we're going to calculate some and we're going to dimension others. So we'll walk through that whole process. I'm actually going to design a clip that I need for the plug on my hot tub. The plug on my hot tub actually sits underneath a bench outside. When it rains, that underneath the bench actually gets wet and it turns off my hot tub. So I want to actually clip that plug up underneath the bench so that it won't get wet. So it's pretty straightforward design. We're going to come up with that. I haven't got the design drawn out. I'm just going to do it as we go. Because it's parametric, I know the shape I want, and then we'll just parametrically make it the size we need it. And I haven't even measured the size yet, but we'll do that once we've got the parametric clip working. So first things first, we are going to show you which version of FreeCAD we have. It's actually version 0.19.2, the very latest one downloaded. It's the GIT 24291. I just re-downloaded it just to make sure that I have the very latest. So we're going to start. If you have my macro, my startup macro, you can certainly use that. I'm not going to use that because some people complain that they don't have it, so we're going to do it manually. So we'll click that. We start a file. I'm going to save that file. I'm going to save it as, I'm just going to call this parametric design. But first, I've created a new channel for home loans. My day job is I'm a home loan advisor, and I wanted to simply share information about how you calculate your maximum mortgage, how you calculate your mortgage payments, using the same kind of techniques that I use in this channel to be able to help people to understand all the information about their home loan and all the things about pre-qualification and getting the home of your dreams. If you're interested, please take a look at the channel. Consider subscribing. I'm trying to grow that channel so that I can help people with their mortgages just as much as I help people with FreeCAD. Thanks. And then I'm going to make a part, and I'm going to make a body, and then we're going to start sketch. That's simple. I'm going to do the sketch on the XY plane. Some people have asked me about why I use the XY plane. When you're using 3D printing, the XY plane it makes it easy because that's the orientation that you want to print it in usually. So I normally use the XY plane. You can use any plane you like and you can move it around. When you put it in the slicer, you can change it. It's entirely up to you, but that's the one I use. So if you want to follow me, use the XY plane. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to rough out the shape. So I'm going to use this tool. This is the Polyline sketch tool. And I'm just going to sketch out roughly how this thing looks. So it's going to be something like this. It's going to go across here, it'll go up here, there'll be a little step there, that'll come in here, and I'm just going to, like I said, I'm just going to rough it out. And I'm going to do the same things with this that I always do. So I'm going to rough out the shape and just right click to get rid of the end of that polyline. I can drag this around a little bit if I want to, whatever we want to do. Obviously, I'm going to take care of the geometry first, so I'm going to make those vertical. Going to make this one. Actually, if I make this one and this one symmetrical around this line, and then you see when it pulls things out of shape like that, some people panic. There's no need to panic. So all we're going to do is we're going to hit that guy, make that go vertical, and then we're going to say that this one, so let's just move these out. We're going to say this one and this one are equal. And we're going to say this one is horizontal. And of course we want this one and this one to be equal. And we're going to this one and this one be equal. And we're going to make this one and this one symmetrical. And we'll make this one and this one symmetrical. So now we have these things pretty much the same. So that one has to be horizontal. So once we have this shape, our geometry is pretty much locked in. Now we can start dimensioning what's important. So obviously the clip is going to hold something inside this space here. So this dimension is quite important. So we're going to take that one there and we'll give that a dimension because that's going to be important. And we're going to take that one there and give that a dimension because that's going to be important too. Now I'm not going to actually give them numbers because remember we're going to make those parametric. So that's going to be my width and my height of whatever it is I'm holding, plus a clearance or whatever you want to, however big you want to make the clip. Then of course this piece here is going to be important because that's how much it's going to overhang. How much are we clipping in there? Obviously if I have something this big, I can't push it through there. I'll break this thing to try and do that. You can tell that just by the size of it. So we're going to fix that. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick out the pieces that we need to dimension. And I think this height here is going to be important. So let's give that a dimension. And probably this one here is going to be important. So we're going to give that a dimension. And what else? So I guess the overall height and the overall width are going to be important. So we're going to give those dimensions. And I still have 3 degrees of freedom. We want it to be a fully constrained sketch. So it's important that we constrain everything. Let's have a look at our degrees of freedom. Yep, it is showing everything is not constrained because we don't have it constrained to this guy here yet. So we want to do that. We'll move all this down. I need that one and that one to be horizontally attached as well, so that they go up and down together. These go up and down together. And what we're going to do is we're going to make this and this horizontally aligned. And there you can see that piece is already attached. Now what we need to do is just make a dimension that goes across here. So we want a dimension from here to here this way, and that will give us our fully constrained piece. I'm going to move these dimensions around so I can see them a little better. So we have a dimension that goes that way, that way, that way. And so that gives us that overall height because we have this height and this height, just making up this piece. We have this height and we have this overall height. So I think we have enough to be able to create something parametrically from this. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to say close for that. And I'm just going to pad it so we can see what the model looks like. I'll leave it at 10. This is basically the model. I'm going to put 2 holes in here, but first I'm going to put the parametrics on the outside of this to give it some reasonable dimensions. So let's do that. And I'm just going to do it from a spreadsheet. So we could do a master sketch, but I'm not going to do a master sketch in this case. I'm going to do a spreadsheet, and we will put together the parametric data that we need to make this a parametric model. So first thing we have to do is switch workbenches to the spreadsheet workbench, create a new spreadsheet, and then we can open up that spreadsheet just by double clicking it. And of course we can tile those two so I can see this and this. And now I'm going to go back into my sketch. So now I can see my sketch alongside my spreadsheet, and we can now put in the dimensions that we want. So what I like to do is to give dimensions some kind of descriptive. So we're going to do that. And I'm going to manually create the aliases. There is a macro. Again, I have a macro that does that. It's called easy alias. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do it manually so you can see how we do that. So the first thing I'm going to have is the overall width and the overall height. Because I think those two, so that would be this one and this one. And then the inside width and inside height, which are the two important ones for me. So I'm just going to call it inside width and inside height. And those two are going to be the ones that are the primary drivers for the rest of everything else. If you think about it, these are two dimensions that I really care about. The outside is really just a matter of a function of the thickness around this. This overhang is a thickness of how much, or is a function of how much I can have it overlap, hold it in there, and not be, too small of a gap here. The other pieces that we have, we've been calling this the overhang, so we're going to call that the clip overhang. And we'll call this one, this dimension here, we'll call this the angle height. And again, it's up to you what you call your stuff. Whatever makes sense to you is what you're calling it. It's not important what it is, as long as you know what those dimensions refer to. So I'm going to call this the clip flat height. So that's the flat of the clip. This is the overhang of the clip. This is the angle height. I need this one to be, it could probably be this one, and this one could probably be equal, to be honest with you. And normally when I do these type of clips, those are roughly the same height, so we maybe make those the same. And then what else do I need? I think that is it for now. So let's get started with those. So my inside width is going to be, and I'm just going to come up with a dimension. So for now, I'm going to make it 45, and my inside height, I'm going to make it 35. And my clip overhang probably only needs to be about 3, something like that. My angle height is currently 10, so let's go with 11. And my flat height is, in this particular instance, is 9. So if I just give it a 9. And again, I'm just picking dimensions just to be able to assign them. And now if I look at my overall height is actually my inside height plus my clip flat height, my angle height. So I'll make that to there, and then whatever that thickness is going to be. So if I made that thickness, I can make that thickness the difference between this and this divided by 2. That would keep a constant thickness all the way around. So let's try and express that as a calculation. So as with all spreadsheets, you just say equal And it's going to be the inside height, which is B5. So B here, 5 here is this number. And then I'm going to add the angle height, which is going to be B and 7. So B7. And the clip flat height, which is B8. Plus, and it's going to be the inside width. Actually, it's going to be the overall width. So B2. I'm going to put this in parens. B2 minus inside width, which is B4 divided by 2. Now for that to work, it's going to need a number in here, so it's not going to calculate right now until I give it this overall width. And the overall width we're going to calculate a different way, so let's have a look at that. We'll pop that one in there. So it's complaining because there's no overall width here, so if I say that's 80, now it can calculate it. So my overall height is going to be a function of this. And then what I need to do is I need to decide how big one side of this is going to be. So maybe we should have a reference dimension in there, or actually what we'll do is we'll create one, we'll call it wall thickness. Let's say that's going to be 3. So now this plus 2 times the wall thickness should equal this. So that overall width is going to equal inside width, which is B4. So B4 plus 2 times B9. Okay, now what I like to do when I calculate something is I like to put in this column calculated. That saves me from typing over those things. So now I know this and this are calculated, and they're calculated from these dimensions. This clip overhang, can we calculate that? Let's have a think about that. I don't think we can. I think we're going to leave that one. The angle height, we're going to leave that one. The clip flat height, we'll leave that one for now. So I think we're ready to assign some things here. So what we're going to do is we'll click on that. We'll go to this where it says alias on the right hand side. And I'm just going to give it the same name as this. So overall width. I'm going to do the same for this one. Overall height. And inside width. Inside height. Now the easy alias, if you select that, it will automatically give it those names, but I'm doing it manually so you can see how to do it. Clip overhang. So I just select the number and I'm going to type in whatever's there. Clip flat height. And wall thickness. I did do 2 S's. Oh, I missed off angle height, so I got to do that one. And that gives them all names, so that has the same name as what's in here. So I can easily see that when I go through these, which one's which. And now it's just a matter of assigning them to here. So if I go here, double click that, then I click on this little guy here. So let's see, can I zoom into there? Wait. Okay, let's try it again. I'll just zoom in there. There you go. So you see this little guy here. Now if I click that, and it'll let me say spreadsheet, and then I'm gonna give it this inside width. You can see it automatically tells me the result. I say okay, click okay there, and now I'll just zoom back out. So now you can see that it's turned blue, which basically means it has been assigned a dimension. So it is now whatever this dimension is. And we're going to carry on. So this one's going to be the overall width. So I double click it, hit that little strange guy again, spreadsheet overall width, and you can see it's already changing to the things that we have set. And I'm going to change this one, double click, that guy, spreadsheet inside, and this one's inside height. And then I'm going to change. Now, one thing to notice, you see how this thing is turned inside out? That's not a great thing to happen. So to fix that, I might have to mess with some of the dimensions here. So I might have to delete a dimension or something like that to get that to work again. So I'm going to assign this one spreadsheet, and it's clip flat height. And this one is going to be the same thing. So I made those equal. And somebody asked me about, can I have more than one body reference these dimensions? And yes, you can, because the spreadsheet is accessible to everybody. So yes, you can. So clip flat height. Say okay. And now that's 9. This guy is the same as this guy, but for some reason we are flipped. So we're going to have to fix that. And I'll show you how we fix it. Actually, it's not a bad thing that that's happened, because that will let me show you how I fix it. So we're going here, we're going to be spreadsheet, and that's going to be angle height. And then this one, this is going to be clip overhang. So spreadsheet, clip overhang. And this one is going to be spreadsheet, overall height. And there we have it. So now I have a 3mm thickness there. You can see that things are not lining up the way I'd want them to. So this, clearly this clip, the clip flat height shouldn't be as big as it is. So if I change that, we'll see here that this is updated. I thought this was clip flat height as well. Let me just double check. So if you want to see which ones they are, it is, but it hasn't updated. There we go. So, and now I can see, if I look at my model, I can see that there are some issues, and I can see that maybe I need to make some things proportional. So in doing so, it'll mean that these things will calculate themselves So I'm looking at that right now. Like I said, I haven't done this yet, so we're doing this together, so I can show you how I do it. And I do have to fix this. Why would this go inside out? And it's because it flipped inside out before the dimension was applied. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this constraint here, this number 26. So I go down on this left side and I turn off 26. That should not be holding anymore. Actually, I'm going to delete it. There we go. So it didn't update for some reason. Now I can turn that back to where it needs to go. So that is now, I can add that back in, I think. Just add that back in and we should be good. That was just an equal constraint. And now it's back in the right way. But we can see that we need to do some things here to make this different. So my overhang should maybe be 5 in this case. And you can see sometimes it's not updating. So if I double click on the dimension to edit that, you see it is already 5. And when I say okay, now it will update. So that's kind of weird. So probably what we want to do is we can make this clip overhang proportional to this inside dimension. So I'm looking at it to see, is 5 enough? Do I want to go more than 5? And give me an idea of what the proportion should be. Right now that inside is 45. And we're also only 3 in our wall thickness. So let's make that 8. Just to give it what we need here. And so everything updated in our spreadsheet. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to save everything. Save my parametric design. And I'm doing that because I want to make sure that I don't lose anything with the changes here. I close my sketch, reopen my sketch, and now all my dimensions are correct. So now it's starting to look a little bit more proportional, a little bit more the way I want it to be, with an 8 wall thickness. So again, we could make that a calculation and use it as a proportion. I'm just thinking, again, I'm thinking out loud. I'm doing this with you right now. I have not already done this, so I'm considering the design as we go, so you can see how I think about it. I don't mind that these are the same. I think that's pretty good. I think this needs to be a proportion of this thickness though. And so right now it's half of that, just under half of that. So if I say that's 4, it's just, again, I'm just looking at what it looks like proportionally. If I make that 4, and it makes everything 4. So if I make that half of that, so I'm now going to call this one, it equals the wall thickness divided by 2. So that's B9 divided by 2. So now whatever the wall thickness is, and I'm going to put my calculator along here. So whatever my wall thickness is, my clip flat height is going to be half of that. So I think that is good. But now my wall thickness could actually be a proportion of this dimension. You don't want to make it a proportion of a calculated dimension, because I think this one is actually calculating itself. So we don't want to make it a proportion of that. So let's have a look. We have 45 here, and we have 8 thickness. Looks about right. Is it going to be flexible enough? I don't know. But that is make our wall thickness 9. and just see what happens then. So this one should be recalculated. When I hit that, they're all recalculated. I don't know why they're not recalculating automatically. Let me just check on that. I'll come back. Okay, so working through our dimensions then, I think this wall thickness could actually be calculated based on what looks about right. I have 1/5 of this inside width is my wall thickness. So let's try that we'll change the dimensions around and see what it looks like. So my inside width is B4 divided by 5. And I'm going to make this calculated. So now if I change my inside width to 50, I'll make that wall thickness 10. I still don't know why my dimensions are not updating themselves. I did look at the settings, I couldn't find anything. I'm not sure why it's not updating as I'm changing them here. So now if you look at, it's automatically making that wall thickness. So all I'm doing is setting my inside width and my inside height and my clip overhang and my angle height. And now if I change my angle height, I think my angle height there is a little bit extreme. So I'm going to have a quick look. See, we have 11 millimeters right now. I change that to, let's go to 9. Just going to do a save again. I just want to save everything, make sure I don't lose it. You should be saving stuff regularly. Normally I would say there would be a recompute that would allow that to change, but I don't know why it's not. I don't know if it's just this particular session, but it's not changing. And I think I'm going to even go smaller than that. I might go 8. I think that looks a bit better. And if I look at this dimension, so as a proportion, we could say 40, just to see how that looks. Everything should be able to update there. So I think that looks good. If I make that 1/5 of that, so I'm going to do the same for that. So that's going to be my inside height, B5 divided by 5. Oop. We have to say equals B5 divided by 5. There we go. I'm going to call that calculated. So now if I change just these two, I'm changing everything except the clip overhang. So I think I want to go with the clip overhang too, and that is 50 to 5, so it's 1/10 of that. So let's make the clip overhang equal B4 divided by 10. And now that's calculated. So you can see how it came about, my calculations here to be able to make everything parametric except these two pieces that I want to set up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save that right now. Save my design. And now I'm going to just make my design my model and take a look at it. And now I'm going to, one more time, I'm going to tile my windows, and I'm going to change this inside width to be 60. And I'm going to change my inside height to be 50. And there you can see it's fully parametric. Everything is changing based on my inside height and inside width. And my wall thickness now is 12. I don't know if that's going to be too thick for what I need. So let's just go with, I might change that calculation. So let's go with 80 for my inside width. Yeah, now I'm getting too thick. So I don't like that calculation. So it's 1/5 of my inside width. And I think it could be smaller. Let's go 1/6 of my inside width. Maybe 1/8 my inside width. Yeah, that's probably better. So that is 10, and we know this is 10 because that's what we originally set it up to be. However, we could make our height there, our what do we call that? Our extruded height, and we could make that a calculation based on our wall thickness. So we could say maybe we want it to be 1.5 times our wall thickness, so B9 times 1.5. 0.15. 1.5. And we're going to make this the alias extruded height. We're going to say that's calculated too. And then to make that so, we go into our pad, and where we see this height, this length of 10, we hit that. So let's go over there a little bit. So where we have our length of 10, we hit this, and we say it's equal to spreadsheet extruded height, and just tab away from that. And now we have that is all parametric too. So I like that so far. So I'm going to save everything. And then we'll look at putting holes in. So now what we want to do is we're going to add 2 holes in here. We want to make those parametric too, so they're proportional to the size of our clip. So I'm going to do that. We're going to go back into part design, and we're going to create a new sketch. And this time we want it to be on this plane here, the XZ or XZ plane. Say OK. I'll go over here, turn my model back on so I can see what I'm doing there. And we're going to go, we'll just zoom in here. We're actually just going to put 2 holes in. So I'm just going to take this, pop 2 holes in here. Doesn't matter where they go for now. Remember, everything's parametric, so it really doesn't matter where we put them to start with. We know there's going to be a dimension between the 2 of them. We know that this one and this one are going to be equal. We know that this one, and this are going to be symmetrical. And then we want a diameter one of these. Again, it doesn't matter what we put there for now because we're going to make it parametric. And then we just need to align it from this point up. It has to have an alignment that way. And there we go. So now in our spreadsheet, we can leave a gap here and we'll just put in hole diameter. That's going to be our first one. And then we're going to say hole centers. Center. And then we'll say hole middle, which is going to be this dimension here, the whole middle. So my hole diameters, I don't know, we're going to start with 4. My hole centers are going to be 44, and my whole middle is going to be 8. We'll just start out with something just to get going. And so I'm going to call this hole diameter. I'm going to call this one hole center. And I'm going to call this one hole middle. So again, I'm assigning these manually. You can do it with that easy alias. It would be fine. So it looks like I didn't get hole diameter in there. Do that again. There we go. If it doesn't go yellow, it hasn't been assigned. So you can always click on it. You can see what the alias is, and you can see what the number is there. So for my hole diameter, I probably want to do some relation to my extruded height. So if I go extruded height divided by 3 maybe would be a good one. So let's do that just to get roughly what we want. So that's going to be B10 divided by 3. And then my hole centers. So now I need to be careful that my hole centers are not stuck under that clip. So we're going to have to think about that one a little bit. Let's go with our whole middle because that one's easy. So the whole middle is going to be half of that wall thickness. So we're going to say equals, and that wall thickness is B9. So B9 divided by 2. And so that'll put us right in the middle of that. Oh no, I'm sorry, it's not B9, it's B10. It's not the wall thickness, it's the extruded height. B10 divided by 2. There we go. So now that will be exactly where we want it to be in terms of the center here, and my hole size is there. So let's go ahead and assign those. So we're going to go in here. We're going to call this spreadsheet hole diameter. And we're going to call this spreadsheet hole middle. And we're going to call this one spreadsheet hole center. And we are done. And you can see they're already constrained. It's fully constrained. So we're going to close that. And then we're going to say we are going to make that a pocket. And our pocket we can say through all. And I'll go right through there. That's perfect. And all looks good at the moment. So my hole diameter is a calculation, so we can put that in as calculated. My hole middle is a calculation, so we can put that in as calculated. And my hole center, now we have to think about what my hole center should be. So I want it to be this distance, which is my inside width, minus this distance, which is my overhang. So that would put it right there. And then it's got to be minus some clearance. So if we said minus 2 times the hole diameter, I think we'd be good. So let's try that. Let's say it equals my inside width, which is B4, minus my overhang, which is B6, minus my hole diameter, which is B12, times 2. Let's see how that looks. I just need to pop that way and go front on. Yeah, not quite right. So let's have a look. So I'm this and this. Oh, it should be times 4, I think. There we go. So now the holes don't overlap here ever. So we can put that in as calculated. And let's try it for some different widths. Let's go to 50. Go to 90. Oh, looks good. So I believe we have it. And my hole diameter is a function of that, so I can put bigger screws in as I go wider. Yeah, it all looks good. I think I'm okay with that. And again, it's just how you calculate it. I was just looking at the hole diameter, and the hole diameter is a function of this extruded height, but the extruded height is a function of this wall thickness. And the wall thickness is a function of how big my inside width is. So it all changes based on the inside width. It shouldn't change based on the inside height. It stays the same. And now I think the proof is to actually print one and see what it looks like. So I'm going to go out and measure my plug, and then I'm going to come back in and I'm going to print one and see what it looks like and see if it'll work. So a quick measure of my part, and it looks like it's going to be 50 high by 40 wide. So my inside width is going to be 40 and my height is going to be 50. And that makes my hole diameter quite small. I might have to increase that because I'm not sure I have any screws that small. 50 by 40. I'm only 7 millimeters high. That's not bad. I kind of like this to be 4 though. What about if I divide that by 2 in this case? Yeah, that would look better. Well, let's go ahead and we'll print one, see what it looks like. So to print it, I'm going to take that pocket, left click it, and file and export. Now I'm going to say export it as that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open that up in my slicer. I'll show you how I do that real quick. So I use the Prusa slicer, and I'm just going to file, import, import an STL, and I'll just zoom in a little bit. Everything looks good. That's exactly the way we want it to print. So I'll give it a slice, and looks like it's going to take 33 minutes to print. Let me just check. I think my infill's pretty solid on this one. 60% infill. I think that's probably good for what I want because it's a clip and I don't want to break. So I think that's good. I'm going to send that to my printer. Let's just get it going. So what we do is we just send this to the printer and away we go. You can see that it fits onto the plug that we intended it to fit onto, and I'm going to print a second one, and the two of those will hold that thing up, I think. The only thing with PLA is it does give over time, so you have to keep an eye on it that it doesn't spread and then drop the part out, but other than that I think it'll work perfectly fine. Thanks. So if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks.